VCT EMEA brought home 2 global trophies last year, but there was one common phrase that started to follow them midway of Masters Tokyo.
Do you think EMEA is a one-team region?
I don't really have any opinions about that one team region thing. I think we have many teams.
So today we'll look at each tournament to see if there's merit to these claims, as well as talk about the teams I find most interesting from this region. The first tournament of 2023 was Lock-In, and it was wild. Single elimination among all franchise teams, and some from China too. The alpha bracket had Koi, Giant Gaming, Karmine Corp, BBL, and Team Heretics. They had a combined total of 2 wins, and no one advancing to the semifinals of the alpha bracket. Damn! Only Giant Gaming and Karmine Corp were able to give EMEA wins on this side of the bracket. Yes, that Karmine Corp. To be fair, they lost to the likes of Loud, who had home court advantage, and Giants Gaming lost to NRG in a 3-map series. BBL also lost to DRX, who were able to make it to the next stage. The Omega side had Team Liquid, NAVI, Team Vitality, FUT Esports, and Fnatic. Things looked a lot brighter for EMEA over here, with a total of 10 wins and 4 out of the 5 teams mentioned beforehand able to claim one of them, with only Team Liquid not able to get a win. They lost to Team Secret. Nonetheless, things were looking so good for EMEA that both NAVI and Fnatic qualified for the next stages of the tournament. EMEA was the only region to have 2 teams represent them in the Omega versus Alpha brackets. Also, as someone who enjoys keeping up with the lore of Valorant, I like that they decided to name the brackets Alpha and Omega because of the 2 Earths battling each other in game. But moving on, Fnatic was able to sweep NAVI, and 2 of those games had a close scoreline of 11-13. Later, Fnatic was able to steal the win from Loud too in this tournament. In general, EMEA went 6-6 against America's teams, 4-2 against Pacific teams, and 1-0 against China. Major thanks to NAVI and Fnatic, but still impressive. And far from the idea that EMEA were the weakest region among the original 3 formed in VCT. Next is Tokyo. In the group stages, we have both NAVI and FUT Esports. These 2 teams failed to advance though. The only win they were able to muster was from FUT when they played against the Alphabet Man.
Yeah, my dog HFM, DZ, J. Have you not seen that username? C9Z7. That's my dog right there. Oh, I didn't mean to curse. That's my freaking dog right there.
Who was on China's Attacking Soul Esports. However, EMEA had 2 teams still waiting in the playoff brackets, Fnatic and Team Liquid, who were able to beat Fnatic in their regional playoff games. Overall, EMEA was able to finish the tournament with 6 wins and 6 losses against other regions, with them going 3-4 against Americas, 1-1 against Pacific, and 2-1 against China. However, if we remove Fnatic from the region, then EMEA is 2-6 against all competition. They have 0 wins and 4 losses against Americas, 0 wins and 1 loss against Pacific, and only 2 wins and 1 loss against China. This is when the one-team narrative started to grow the most. And honestly, you can't blame people. These numbers are actually horrendous. A big part of this is how NAVI underachieved in the group stages and Team Liquid getting spanked by America's teams. The same Team Liquid that lifted the first EMEA regional trophy after franchising. During the group stages of Champs 2023, the region went 5-5. And when we don't include Fnatic, the region has 3 wins and 5 losses. Only 2 of those wins coming from Pacific teams, or I guess just 1 team. You can thank FUT for beating Team 1 twice for that. NAVI got unlucky with the group of death, and Giants Gaming had some close calls in Group A, but just couldn't squeak by PaperX and EDG. However, during the playoffs, each region had 2 teams making it through, which would surely quiet those EMEA 1-team region noises, right? Well, playoffs were even worse. Fnatic lost against Loud twice and was only able to beat FUT and DRX. FUT tried their best too, but their playoff matches were against PaperX and then had to go against the kings of EMEA and Fnatic. Overall, it looked like EMEA as a whole started off red hot in Lock-In, but dwindled towards the end of the season. The interesting thing about looking at all these performances is that I noticed Pacific and even China to an extent weren't that behind. It was really the Americas region that was constantly beating up everyone else. Even then though, I think the top 2 teams of each region handled themselves pretty well. You could see gaps in skills, but they weren't astronomically big, unless you include China, but they're still a little bit behind. The likes of Loud, Evil Genius, Paper Rex, DRX, Fnatic, and even NAVI when they're not trolling were all dangerous. Each of these top teams could have beaten each other. However, those are just my opinions. If EMEA teams want respect for themselves and their regions, then they have to earn it through results. Results that Fnatic knows pretty well. Throughout 2023, when it comes to who are the best players in the world, Fnatic was lucky enough to have people sing the praises of Leo and Vincere. They were constantly in discussion of who was the best player on the team, and possibly the world. Then of course there's Chronicle, where each team he goes to, he just wins. I might be wrong, but I think Chronicle has the most tier 1 international trophies. He won with Gambit in Masters Berlin and 2 with Fnatic. All he's really missing at this point is a Champions trophy. I think people have to start saying that he has to be on Valorant's Mount Rushmore of GOATs. Then there's Bolster, who's constantly seen as the weakest link, but you can tell he injects energy into the team. Shoot, you can even say he's Durka's PR team, because he constantly has to remind people that Durka is a pretty good duelist. Just a testament to how stacked this team is. When it comes to creating space and getting first kills, many teams would love to have a player like Durka. I also think he's plugged into the Matrix because his ability to just dodge bullets and projectiles is insane. Someone should make like a short video on how he's just able to push danger aside. If he keeps this up, we might have to invent a new stat called DPM, where the D won't stand for dodges, it will be for Durkas per matches. How many freaking Durka-like plays can you pull off? It's just ridiculous. And I know DPM could stand for damage per match, but I'm just having fun at this point. If Fnatic can continue to come in top 4 in international play in this VCT season, then I think we have to cement them as Valorant's first dynasty. I explained in the past video why they're not quite there yet, but TDLW, in my opinion, it takes more than just one amazing year. We've seen amazing teams in the past fall apart when a new meta or map gets added to the pool. As long as Fnatic doesn't burn out, I can see them achieving this title nonetheless. Next is NAVI, which last year was pretty odd. They made it out of the Omega bracket pretty easily by just sweeping everybody. They only lost to eventual tournament winners in Fnatic. They then struggled in Tokyo, being upsetted by Edward Gaming. They were also unluckily placed in the group of deaths and champs and failed to make it out. In all honesty, NAVI should have had a better year. Their team was made up of old FPX, the same team that gave past Fnatic many problems. A FPX team that claimed trophy wins for themselves as well. All that was different was instead of Artis, they had CNED, one of the world's most dangerous offers. On Sage. There were many confusing and odd comps that they came up with that didn't really highlight the team's strength. I'm glad that they were trying to shake up the meta and do different things, but it was just unfortunate that we didn't see them at their full potential. Flashes of CNED being a beast was still there. The same CNED that made 100 Thieves trademark the tactic. You see CNED, you run. However, during the offseason, NAVI decided to get the gang back together by picking up Artis. It's officially FPX2, the Electric Boogaloo. I could definitely see a team that has Angel, Artis, Shao, Sagetsu, and Zippen challenge not only the EMEA only has one team narrative, but possibly the throne itself. The only thing stopping this team may just be themselves. We can't forget about Team Liquid either. When it comes to international events, it's safe to say they kinda underachieved. However, beating the likes of Fnatic and lifting a regional trophy is nothing to ignore. Regardless of the claims that Fnatic were running on fumes, it's a task not easy to complete. I really like Team Liquid because you could tell as an org they really want to make a splash in Valorant. They made a whole music video just for champs. They too were unluckily placed in the group of death. But hey, if you want to be the best, you gotta beat the best. And with a season like theirs came with it changes in the offseason. They only kept Nats and Jampy, but decided to add some of the members from Apex, runner-ups in Ascension. This includes the likes of Enzo and Mystic, who were both once on Fnatic, as well as Kiko, who will be their duelist. I haven't seen much of him live, but based on his past performances, he seems like another player ready to show the world that there's not much difference between the top of tier 2 and tier 1. And where NAVI kind of regressed throughout the year, but got better. Watching them always felt like they wanted to play Counter-Strike. That's just my way of saying their aim was out of this world, but utility usage compared to other T1 teams was a bit behind. They were able to find the groove in champs by pushing EG further than anyone thought, which kind of brought a smile to my face since I had them as a dark horse anyways. They wanted to continue these signs of progress by letting go of Mosh and Kiwi, and bringing in CNED and Yetuje. It sucks that those players had to go, since they were pretty cracked, but making space for CNED is kind of a no-brainer. I definitely see this team having a similar performance to that of NRG last season, minus Champs 2023. Those were dark times for them. Basically, I see them as fringe contenders, where if other teams are sleeping on them, they might pay the price. Now, I know I haven't mentioned teams like Karmine Corp, who had massive changes, Giant Gaming that gave EDG a run for their money in Champs, and M80, which are dangerous. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if M80 shocks the world too, especially witnessing how good Moist, Shopify, and Oxygen were against Tier 1 America's teams. It'd be foolish for anyone to sleep on Ascension teams. I just don't know too much about them and the rest of EMEA. However, the more I look into things, the more everyone just looks great on paper. But like Mike Tyson says,
everyone has a plan until you're punched in the mouth.
And we have to wait to see which teams in this region can hopefully shut that one team narrative up.